as you will see here, initially blocked the opposition leader from entering Parliament, but they forced their way in through the doors. Mr. Guaidó and another 100 opposition lawmakers broke in through that cordon into the National Assembly, where he was then re-elected as Speaker. I'm joined by Vanessa Neumann, who serves as the UK representative to the Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaidó. Welcome. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Why is it important symbolically for him, who wants to be leader, Mr. Guaidó, to be re-elected as the Speaker?
Well, he is the leader. First of all, it's because we are following the Constitution. We're following the Constitution that was signed into law in 1999 under Nicolás Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez. And according to that Constitution, every January 5th, the National Assembly has to re-elect its leader. What happens is that in Guaidó's case, because the election was false in last year, he is also the interim constitutional president of the Republic. So he is both head of the National Assembly and the Republic.
Important for you as the opposition to keep Venezuela at the top of the international agenda.
Right.
I would imagine today you're looking at these pictures of a ring of steel around the People's Legislature, and that's quite useful for you, isn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, in a way, it has sort of been a gift, because everybody understands worldwide the image of military surrounding a legislative palace. And we also had today, they beat 3 diplomats, 3 people from the diplomatic corps, which is a violation of Vienna Convention. And the fact that it shows that he is so afraid of the impact that Guaidó has had over the last year inside Venezuela and in the international community, that he wants to steal that legitimacy by stealing the National Assembly.
Vanessa, bring us up to date in terms of where global support is in an active way for Mr. Guaidó, because since this story was front and center of news headlines last year, it seems to have died down. I'm just wondering how much active support Mr. Guaidó is still getting.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That's a great question, because we had, I think, a little bit about 50 countries when he was first initially sworn in. We're now up to more than 60 countries. We have a growing number of ambassadors being given more and more credentials all around the world, as we are taking some of the, as they change their policy and recognize Guaidó more. A lot of the assets have been frozen.
But are those countries doing much to help you on the ground? Are those countries doing much to help you in Venezuela?
Oh, yes, absolutely. A lot of the international embassies in the UK alone, for instance, the UK embassy is on the ground, fully functioning, and is providing a lot of humanitarian aid, medicine and food, and they're also there. For instance, they were the observers, the key observers to the legitimacy of Guaidó's re-election, of winning 100-0 by unanimity of the National Assembly on Sunday.
Can I just, before I let you go, we're going to turn back to Iran, but you were just saying to me while we were watching Mark Esper there, of the involvement of Iran in Venezuela.
Yes.
We were talking about their involvement in Buenos Aires in South America yesterday.
That's right.
But of course, Venezuela and Iran are OPEC countries.
Right. And
this man, Soleimani, had quite a connection with President Maduro.
Absolutely. For over a decade, I have written a lot, researched a lot, and published a lot on the relationship that Nicolás Maduro, when he was foreign secretary under his predecessor Hugo Chavez, signed all the mutual cooperation agreements with the Ayatollah, with Soleimani, with Hassan Nasrallah, and set up businesses for the Quds forces to launder money, set up factories and training camps in Venezuela. Venezuela provides material support for Iranian-influenced terrorism throughout the world. And this is why we need the world's democracies and the people who are concerned about global war on terror to help us respect our Constitution, back Juan Guaidó, and get the country back to prosperity and get the terrorists and the narco criminals out of our country.
Interesting point. Vanessa Neumann, thank you very much for your time.